Wilson with Web Marketing. Today I'm in Chicago at the Search Engine Strategies Conference with Bryan Eisenberg, who's an expert in the area of sales and convincing people, persuading people to buy online. What I want to talk to you about today is this question of how can your small business compete with larger businesses online? I mean, do small businesses have a chance?
I think they absolutely do. There's a couple things that are to their advantages. Number one, they can be much more nimble than larger companies, and I think that's one of the most critical things. You know, online's all about speed.
Now, you've worked with larger companies. How do they operate when it comes time to change?
Well, you know, it depends on the organization. Some are very, very quick, and you know, I've spoken about how Amazon changed their MP3 store within 2 hours of Michael Jackson dying, which is impressive. But most organizations, you know, it'll take them a week to even put together a meeting to plan how they're going to change the store.
So nimbleness helps.
Nimbleness helps. So if you can be a small business that's monitoring, you know, Twitter trends, and you'll say you sell T-shirts, and all of a sudden you see a big trend coming, you know, you can start producing T-shirts for it, and you start capturing those searches. You're going to start getting sales. And so little things like that, where you can leverage what's going on in real time, and become more of a real-time marketer, the more effective you're going to become. You can also be much more customer intimate than a lot of these big organizations.
How do you mean?
Getting to know your customers better. I mean, I think that's one of the core competencies that a lot of big organizations have forgotten. I mean, we saw that from Zappos, right? There were a lot of big shoe stores online for quite a while, and none of them made the splash that Zappos did. And it wasn't because they had so much money. It wasn't because of all that. Because I mean, we heard stories. Tony Hsieh was, you know, that close to losing the company, but by pushing all his efforts into, you know, listening to customers and empowering his employees to create a great experience for them. Mm-hmm. People kept getting that word of mouth, and people kept coming back and buying more from them. So again, those two skills are critical for today.
I think related to that is also how you can speak to your customers, because big companies speak in corporate speak.
Exactly.
But little companies can speak in, you know, we did this and in my experience, and in a personal way, which is going to get a response of people trusting.
Not only personal, but an authentic way.
Yes.
And people really care for authenticity today. You know, I've written an article about, you know, how to write an about us for startups. And I think it's about that. So why did you start the business? You know, did you start the business for no reason? But obviously you have some kind of a passion. Mm-hmm. And share that. People respect it. It's a small business. You're going to try probably harder than the large businesses. And so the more you can be authentic, customer intimate, and nimble, the more powerful you're going to be. And you know what? I've seen lots of small companies become pretty big companies by using that magic formula.
The about us thing, I think, can be powerful because small businesses don't just happen. I talked to a lady once that she was selling personal kind of protection equipment like mace.
Right.
And so I asked her on the phone, I said, why are you selling these personal protection products? And she said, my husband was shot. What do you say?
Yeah.
And I said, did you put this in your About Us page? She said yes, then someone told me to take it down. But
I think it's how you express it.
But if you can tell your story in a compelling way, I remember early on there was a lady that told her story. Mm-hmm. She had lived in New York City and made clothing, handmade clothing with appliques and stuff for like 5-year-olds. Then her husband got moved to a company in upstate New York, and she couldn't take these into the specialty shops, and so she's selling these online. Well, she tells this story. By the time I finished the story, I wanted to buy something from her, even though I didn't have a 5-year-old.
And you probably had some connection directly to her, which is one of the other things. You know, make yourself accessible as a small business. Yeah. You know, make yourself available on LinkedIn or on Twitter or on Facebook, where people can actually connect with you and chat with you. I mean, I've even seen small businesses where they give the CEO cell phone number so that you can really connect with them. And those are tactics that really work today. People really want that connection with people.
Yeah. So I think small businesses have a real advantage, but it is much harder now than it used to be, because it used to be the big businesses weren't nimble and hadn't figured it out for years.
Yep.
But many of them now have gotten a whole lot smarter, have learned from their analytics,
that's the trick.
Have just keep learning and keep working at it. And unless small businesses are willing to work that hard, it's going to be hard to have the same kind of profit margin and the same kind of conversion rate.
Money and brand can buy you a lot of forgiveness for mistakes that you're willing to do. When you're small, you've got to be nimble because you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But if you can react to them quickly and adapt and keep learning from them, you become incredibly more successful. And you've got to get it into the culture early.
Thanks for sharing with us. Tell me about your business and what you do.
So I've written a number of best-selling books, Call to Action, Always Be Testing, and Waiting for Your Cat to Bark. I may have another one on the way as well. I've also write for Clixie, and I speak a lot at different conferences, and I blog at bryaneisenberg.com.
And a fun guy.
Thank you very much.
This is Ralph Wilson with Web